Hello, Highland Park High School. This is Dr. Morrison, one of the post-secondary counselors here with our final installment of our College Planning 101 series. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about tackling the process. So, some of the things that you're going to need to be thinking about as you're going through the summer a little bit and get into early fall, and really just some of the ways that you're going to manage the process of selecting to and applying to college, as it can be a little bit overwhelming. So we want to give you some tips and pointers on things that you could be doing now, and particularly over the summer, leading into the fall, to take some of the things off your plate that might be a little more taxing when you get to fall, when you've got classes and activities and sports and things like that. So today we're going to talk a little bit about taking advantage of your summer as a way to kind of tackle this process. So we're going to go over these different topics, including visiting schools, like figuring out exactly what your college list is going to look like, some of the things you can take care of as far as the Common App and other applications, and then some essay writing. So when it comes to visiting schools, it is totally okay to visit in the summer. A lot of students, that's when they have time available, and that could be like we're going on a vacation, and so we're going to see some schools while we're going on vacation, or it could be more targeted. I know I'm interested in this school or that school in summers when I have the time. So totally fine to go ahead and visit. I would just, a couple cautionary things. As a general rule, larger schools and more urban schools are still really good to visit in the summer because there's still a lot of people around. So at the larger schools, just because it's bigger, there'll be more kids there taking summer school. Schools that have Division I sports will have all their athletes still there over the summer, and it's just a larger place, so there'll be faculty and staff, and so it just seems a little bit busier. Same thing with more urban schools. A lot of urban schools will have people there because they have, maybe non-traditional students or students enrolled in master's degree programs and things like that that are still there. So again, just a little more busy, a little more active. Some smaller or more rural schools may feel a little bit empty. So you want to make sure to take that with a grain of salt. So if you go see a smaller liberal arts school in kind of a classic college town in the summer, it's going to feel a little empty. It could feel a little bit like a ghost town. So you just have to know that it's summer. It's not a big deal. And then maybe I would need to go back and probably visit that sometime during the school year just to make sure that I know that this would be a good fit for me. Remember, you have until May 1st to make any decision about where you are going, unless you go ED, unless you go early decision. So you want to see enough schools to know what it is you're looking for, but know that you have until May 1st senior year to get to schools that you haven't seen yet. So see some that are convenient. You don't want to leave all of your schools to go visit, before May 1st senior year after you get in, because that could be a tight window to do so. So see enough to know what you're looking for, but then know if you've got some one-offs or some schools that you need to see later, you can always do that at that point. Okay, so when we talk about kind of shoring up our college list, the average, like the mid 50% of at Highland Park of colleges applied to is 5 to 9. So at the low end, like 5, at the high end, like 9. I would say that this depends really greatly on a couple of different things, whether someone goes a little bit lower or someone goes a little bit higher. Students who tend to apply to a few less are students that tend to like their safeties. So I'm very happy with some of the schools that I know I can get into. So I don't see a need really to apply to a ton of schools, to 10 or 12 schools. Students on the higher end tend to be students who are applying to a little more selective schools or a little more selective programs. So, for example, I'm interested in kind of some of the highly selective schools, and I know that's a little bit difficult and kind of hard to pin down where I might get in. So I'm going to apply to a few more. Or students applying to certain selective programs. So, like, I want a direct entry nursing program, and those can be hard to get into. Or I want something in theater or music or something like that, where it's a little bit hard to tell exactly what a safety is for me and what isn't. So 5 to 9 is kind of the general thing that you're looking at. Do your research up front so you're not kind of scrambling when you get to the fall trying to figure out where to apply to. Take advantage of these summer months to look into schools. Like I said, if you can do some visits or do some online tours or whatever it might be, just to shore up your little bit of your list a little bit, so that when you get in the fall, you kind of know what you're set and ready to go with. Make sure that a couple of the schools on your list are safeties, and you can see capitalized and italicized that you will be happy to attend. These should be safe from an academic and a financial standpoint all the time. I wouldn't say all the time, but every year you get a couple of kids who come in, and at the end of their whole college process, they're just not happy with the schools that they had pegged as their safeties. There are 3,000 colleges and universities in the United States of America. So find some schools that you will be happy with attending from an academic standpoint and a financial standpoint. It's extremely important that you take care of that up front. Okay, so the other main thing you want to think about taking care of over the summer is kind of the Common App and the essay that we're going to talk about in a minute, or just general kind of college apps. So right now, the Common App is open and available. So for those of you who are unaware, the Common App is one application you can apply to over 1,000 colleges off of. You can find it at commonapp.org, commonapp.org. So right now, what you can do for the Common App is just complete the main portions. So the main portions of the Common App, not any supplemental questions for individual colleges and universities. So it's kind of your demographic info, name, address, parents, activities, senior year classes, extracurriculars, so on and so forth. So you can get those main portions of the Common Application done. You want to review the main essay prompt. We'll talk about that in a second. And then get an understanding of any supplemental info needed by your college. So basically what's going to wind up happening is you're going to fill out the main portion of the Common App. And then as part of that, you're going to add the colleges that you're going to be applying to through the Common App. And then they'll have their own tab in your application. And when you click on that colleges tab, it's going to look for supplemental information. A lot of times this is just things like, what kind of major do you want to apply to and things like that. But if they have a supplemental essay, it will be in that section. So that will let you know whether or not a supplemental essay is needed. These portions of the application may or may not be available now. They kind of go live throughout the summer. So usually by August to like the beginning of September is when those things go live, because then they're up and ready for submission if you were ready at that point. Review the deadlines and know what needs to go when, and we will talk about that in a minute. Okay, so for the essays, we went over this in the junior English classes. Hopefully those of you were there got a little bit something out of it. We do have a recording of that presentation on our website, the post-secondary counseling website. So Ms. Pendergast went through and kind of redid it. So if you missed that or would like a review of it, you could go online and, kind of get a review of what that essay brainstorming exercise was and kind of our tips and our do's and don'ts and so on and so forth. So in addition to that main Common App essay that you would want to hopefully get a good base on over the summer, I'm kind of getting into it. I've got a good base. I'll be rolling into school in the fall and have maybe my English teacher, my post-secondary counselor review it. You also want to kind of, like I said, take a look at some of the supplemental essays and see what exactly is out there. So I talk about, I mentioned here, be careful tackling these ahead of time. Some of these can change from year to year, but some of them will remain the same. So for example, Illinois every year asks, why do you want this major question? So that a question like that, like why do you want to do this major, or why do you want to go to our school? Those essay questions, those supplemental essay questions, tend to stay on applications. They don't tend to change every year. If it's something creative, like, if you could be any kind of animal, what kind of animal would you be and why? Or if you could have dinner with anybody in the world, who would it be and why? Those are the questions that do tend to change from year to year. So you want to make sure to take a look at those and see, are there some of these that I could tackle now over the summer while I have time or not? Like I said, if it's something a little more creative, probably don't, because there's a good chance that will change when the application goes live. Okay, then the other thing you want to do, and a little bit of this you could do, in the summer or as you start to shore up your college list, but you can also meet with your post-secondary counselor in the fall, and we will 150% help you with this. We want to kind of identify your final list of schools, and then you're going to prioritize completing these applications based on different timelines and deadlines. So we don't necessarily want to sit and be like, okay, these are my 8 schools I'm applying to. I want to get these all done right now in September. Okay. You might do that based on their timelines, but you might not based on the different timelines and deadlines and whatever their admission plans are. So things like early decision or early action are going a little bit earlier, obviously. The California schools, for example, have a November window for out-of-state applicants. And then students applying to a school regular decision or early decision, that could be anywhere from January through April of your senior year. So you want to take a look at your schools and like kind of bust them out, break them out by when the deadlines are due. So I make sure I'm tackling these applications in the proper order. So this is what a sample application list might look like. So here is a student who's applying to 8 schools. So 4 other schools have early action deadlines. So Illinois, Tulane, Wisconsin, and Miami of Ohio. They all have early action deadlines. Anytime a school has an early action deadline, you want to hit it. So whether that's a private school that really like Tulane that really tracks demonstrated interest, or larger public schools that give you priority application and scholarship consideration, you want to hit early action deadlines whenever you see them. Then you'll see for this student on his sample app list, he's got a couple that have later priority deadlines. So Texas has a December 1 priority deadline. I mentioned earlier, California has a November 1 and November 30 window for out-of-state applicants. So he's going to put those off until after he finishes his early action. And then finally, he's got a couple of schools he's going to take a shot at that just have the regular decision deadlines. Northwestern and Tufts have early decision and they have regular decision. There's no early action. There's none rolling, no priority, none of that. It's early decision or regular. So if you're not applying early decision to a school like that, you can put that off until regular decision timeline. So we're just kind of have my 8 schools here, and I'm breaking them out by their deadlines. 4 for the early action, 2 for the different dates, and then 2 for regular decision. So I'm not trying to tackle all 8 of these at once. I'm just kind of breaking them out and doing them while I can. So good luck. Like I said, I think the biggest thing you guys can do is really use it this summer to your advantage. Most of you in the fall, you wind up having your most difficult classes that you've ever had, maybe leadership roles in sports and activities, theater, music, whatever it might be. A lot of stuff going on. So while you have time over the summer, get some of these things off your plate so you don't have to worry about it come fall. When we do get to the fall, we'll have a big process meeting the first week of school when we get back. So like, how do I get my transcript sent? How do I get my recommendation sent, and so on and so forth. So we will talk you kind of through all that in a big group meeting, an evening program, so you get an idea of what exactly you're going to need to do to actually do all the parts of that application. Then you will also want to touch base with your post-secondary counselor early in the fall. We've met with most of you so far, but just kind of check in, see where you're at, make sure we feel good about your list, and we feel good about where you're at with the process going forward. We will take walk-in appointments the first full week of school, so anybody can just drop in during their free period, and then one-on-one individual appointments begin after that. So again, thank you very much for listening. I hope you all have a wonderful summer, and we will see you in the fall.